In this lecture segment, last semester's students would like to share some of their lessons learned with you, and I'd like to offer some of my own suggestions as well. Okay, let's get started. For all the semesters I've been teaching this course, the last question on my final exam has always been the same. Please write some short lessons learned to next semester's CS12 students regarding how to succeed in this course, things you think they'd need to know, or anything else about the course that comes to mind. What do you wish you'd known much sooner? Unless you indicate otherwise, I'd like to share your anonymous comments with them at the beginning of next semester, just as I did with you at the beginning of this semester. So what I did was transcribe their responses from off the final exams, sort them into broad general topics, and group similar responses together. The comments appearing on the following slides are their verbatim comments to you from last semester. They have much more to say than we can possibly cover here, but let's take a look at some representative comments. As stated elsewhere, all course materials needed will be available to you on Canvas, so make full use of them. Regarding the Canvas materials, the general sentiment was to make full use of them and read them all every week before starting on the assignments, and to not skip over the code walkthroughs. Here's what last semester's students had to say. This course is very straightforward if and only if you make use of all resources available. I have learned so many things in this course because I made use of the resources available to me. The lecture notes are super helpful with walkthrough videos. One of the biggest keys to succeeding in this class is to make sure you go over all of the information, lectures, sample code, etc., before attempting that week's assignment. Not everything is going to make complete sense the first time around, but the pieces will start to fall into place while doing the weekly assignment. I also learned that reading all the lecture material and asking questions is the key to getting through the hard assignments. The lecture material is the best place to start out, and make sure to watch and review all of the material. Over the semesters, students have consistently offered similar advice regarding the assignments. Namely, start on them as soon as possible and give yourself time to deal with problems and keep up on them because they do build on each other. In their words, understanding each assignment is critical. Read the program specs carefully and ask questions when in doubt. Each assignment, particularly the ones at the end, required the use of previous material, which helps the student not to forget. Sometimes it's hard to fully see the program requirements. You just have to start one step at a time and then the fog clears. I never actually had any major issues with the concepts. It wasn't until the DAM report that I realized I just had to take the assignment slowly and one step at a time. And during this time was when bug testing became my best friend. I'll probably harp on these things often, but here you have past students talking, not me. Coding style and conventions are the little details, the good rules of the road in programming, which help make your code read and look better, both to you and to anyone else reading it, such as an instructor trying to grade it. We will be emphasizing lots of these little things in the first half assignments to help make them regular habits. Here's what your peers had to say. Many good practices and coding techniques are exercised in the course. Coding standards is the cornerstone of this course. Learn it from the beginning and keep applying it until it becomes second nature. The biggest thing that I suggest to incoming students taking the class is to pay attention to the basic coding conventions. The organization helps tremendously while attempting to scan through the code, and it will help you earn points later in the semester. Adhering to the coding standard might not seem very important, but it really helps others to understand what you're doing, and then people can give you better feedback. By contrast, good programming practices are larger, more general habits and best practices that help you write your code with more efficiency, less stress and frustration, and better end results. These are the good habits will help you develop over the course of the semester. As your predecessors learned through hard experience, don't start coding if the problem is not fully understood. Use pseudocode. Once that's in place, fleshing out the program will take half the time. If your code is not well commented, you will lose precious time, and you risk making mistakes later. Taking the code writing process in steps is the best way to success. Always make small incremental changes in the code, then compile. A small problem can be detected immediately instead of trying to figure out what went wrong on a bigger context. Learn what compiler errors mean and how to use the debugger from the start. Seeing the program flow helps a lot, so learn and use the debugger. Experimenting is simply the idea that, to get good at any skill such as programming, it's not enough to simply read or watch the lectures and do the assignments. You really need to be willing to play around with the language a bit more on your own and study the examples provided to see what makes them tick. In the words of your predecessors, trial and error will be your best friend. Try to work through as many problems and examples as possible. Simply reading the lectures may not be as helpful as doing the examples and problems. Code examples are of great value. This doesn't mean just copy-paste code for your programs. It's necessary to understand how it is done. Ask yourself why it is done in that way, and analyze the solution with a critical mind. The more code examples you read and analyze, the easier for you to spot when something is done in an incorrect way and how it can be fixed. Here's a biggie which students always seem to struggle with: asking questions. I realize it's often very hard for younger students to do, but it's vital in an online setting like ours. And the ones who were brave enough to take that leap usually found themselves amply rewarded. Here's what they had to say. Ask lots of questions. Don't let yourself stew on something for too long. It's always something simple that you just can't see. Ask. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Better to ask soon than to pull your hair out before figuring out what to do next. It gets harder after the midterm exam, so do not hesitate to contact your professor for questions. Try to do as much as you can to solve the problem, but when you can't go any further, ask Professor Lapkus a question regarding it. I always got a timely response back to my emailed question, and the answer always pointed me in the right direction. As noted in the syllabus, I will gladly do one-time code reviews of your assignments before you turn them in. This helps you wring out the simple errors in your programs, helps me to expedite the grading, and generally results in better scores for you. Take advantage of early code reviews. I would highly encourage anyone to make full use of pre-grading review. Some advice to future students. Do the assignments on time and submit code for review before you turn it in. Doing the assignment ahead of time and submitting for pre-grading review not only increases your grade, but also gives a great insight into good programming practices. Incorporate the feedback for your next assignment. Office hours will be held online weekly as noted in the syllabus. In these sessions, we can get questions answered in real time, do some demos of the upcoming assignments, and have some time to demonstrate things like debugging programs. Students who attended regularly found these sessions very helpful, or as they put it, attend office hours. Code demos and discussions will guide you in the right direction. I wish I'd caught on to the office hours earlier in the semester. The last week's recordings were just awesome to watch. I wish I would have gone to the office hours more often, as the one that I went to was very beneficial. A tip I would tell to future students is get on the online class office hours. They really help. I wish I did that. Another crucial area of focus is the office hours every week. I wish I knew how important it was in the beginning, because I never used it to my advantage. During office hours, the teacher solves problems and shows people how to debug. As noted early in the syllabus, the course pacing will start out leisurely, but will pick up steam quickly as the semester advances, particularly in the second half after the midterm. So be forewarned. Or as prior students point out, to succeed in this course, it is very important to stay on top of material, as it will pick up pace towards the end. Be prepared for time-consuming assignments later in the semester. Throughout this course I have learned many things, but the most important one has been that the course speed accelerates fast. In the beginning I used to finish all assignments of the week in one day, but after the midterm I struggled to do it all in one day. Enjoy the first half. The second half you have to work for it. All worth it. Over all the semesters I've been teaching this course, effective time management has consistently been the biggest and most painful lesson learned, and the one which elicits the most responses. The same general themes keep coming up every semester. I can point these things out until I'm blue in the face, but please heed past students' advice such as this. Keep on top of your work. The assignments take longer than you think. Don't start your programs at the last minute. In this course, I've found that the key to success is making sure to look over the lecture materials early. For the love of God, don't do all the coding in one sit-down session. It makes it much easier and you understand it more if you do it for 2 hours a day over the course of a week or until it's done. The most important thing has been to pace myself and to do a little every day. Bottom line, don't procrastinate. Finally, some general encouragement from last semester's students to you, which I think nicely sums things up. Take advantage of office hours, pre-submit review instances, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't panic if an assignment seems too complicated at first glance. Think about all possible scenarios and the exceptions. Divide and conquer. Plan ahead, code a little bit each day if you've got a busy schedule. I still have a lot to learn, but it was rewarding and fun to see the build a little, test a little approach work and things slowly come together. Even if you think you know how to program, learn the material not just to pass this class, but to improve your skills as a programmer. Good luck and have fun. Well, there you have it. Last semester's students' advice to you. There's lots of useful, hard-won advice here. I'll surely be harping on many of these things during the semester, but please take heed of this advice from your peers. And hopefully, you too will be able to pay it forward to next semester's students at the end of this semester. Finally, here's some advice that I'd like to leave you with based on my experience in teaching this course. Divide and conquer. Tackle any big programming assignment by breaking it down into smaller pieces and solving those pieces one at a time. Begin any program you'll write with pseudocode. Start all your new programs with the program template we'll be creating soon. Then begin by creating a commented outline of what you want your code to do without having to worry about all the details yet. Get in the habit early on of using a quick, tight programming cycle. Make some code changes, save your changes, compile your code, test it, and then repeat. Over and over again. I see students try to write their programs in one pass. Then when that code blows up with compile errors, they have no idea as to where to start to fix their problems. You'll get a taste of the preferred incremental approach when you create your first Hello World program this week. Along those lines, simplicity. Get something simple working first, then gradually build it up and keep adding on to it. Do not try to write an entire program in one shot. Rather, start small and keep adding on to it. Again, you'll get practice with this approach when you write this week's Hello World program. Finally, do your very best to keep up with the class. Don't let yourself get behind in the material or on the assignments, because everything builds upon earlier concepts. In particular, programs later in the semester will directly extend and build upon earlier ones. This will be very important to keep in mind after the midterm. And finally, please remember, I am always here to help you with that in any way I can. I'll leave you with this one final thought. There is no shame in not knowing. The shame lies in not finding out. If in doubt, if unsure, if confused, make sure to do something to figure it out. It's okay to get stuck, but don't let yourself stay stuck. Okay, that's the end of this lecture segment. We'll pick back up by starting to get into Java itself.